Indiana Fever training camp is officially underway, and the clips coming out of Indianapolis are turning heads across the entire WNBA. Caitlin Clark and this revamped Fever squad don't look anything like the team we saw struggle through 2025. They look faster, sharper, and way more dangerous. We're seeing jaw-dropping no-look passes that almost don't make sense, logo range threes falling like routine shots, and a level of chemistry that's hard to ignore this early. And here's the crazy part. Within just the first few days of camp, over a dozen major takeaways have already surfaced. One of them, in particular, could completely reshape how people view Indiana's chances at making a serious championship run this season. Make sure you stick around, because the footage at the end of this video had people around the league genuinely stunned. But before we get into it, what do you think was the smartest move the Fever made this offseason? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.
I'm so excited. So excited. Hello! What's going down? We got vibes. I feel like I'm 9 years in. Go Fever girl! What's happening? What's good? First day! First day out! Day one, okay! Day one!
8 months away from the game is no small gap. Heading into 2026 training camp, the biggest concern wasn't just whether Caitlin Clark's ankle had fully recovered, it was whether she'd still have that lightning-fast ability to read defenses that made her nearly impossible to contain. We've seen players return after long layoffs before, and even when they're physically fine, something can feel just a little off. The rhythm isn't quite there, the confidence takes a hit, and that instinct to make the right play before it even develops starts to fade.
I feel great. Super excited to be back here, and I think I have a great perspective on, camp and not taking anything for granted. Obviously, at this time last year I was kind of going through some things, so more than anything, just really excited. I feel really healthy and feel like I've put myself in a position to be as healthy as I can be to start the season, and kind of just staying on top of that and having a lot of fun. I think I have, like I said, great perspective on everything, and excited with all the people that we brought in. It should be a really fun camp.
Clark didn't wait until training camp to silence those doubts. All the way back in March, she headed to Puerto Rico with Team USA for the FIBA World Cup qualifiers and ended up taking home MVP of the entire tournament. And she didn't do it by easing her way back in. She dominated, going right at international defenses that had spent weeks game planning specifically to stop her. Stephanie White, who was part of the Team USA coaching staff, saw it unfold up close. She made it clear that Clark's rhythm was right where it needed to be, and more importantly, she was letting the game come naturally to her, the kind of feel you simply can't recreate in solo rehab sessions. She's been fully cleared, no limitations at all heading into camp. Caitlin Clark herself made it simple, saying she's 100% good to go. The approach here isn't about holding her back or protecting her in bubble wrap, it's about smart load management over a 44-game season, so she's still at her best when the playoffs arrive in October. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell is stepping into her 9th season with the Indiana Fever, and she had every opportunity to walk away. After earning all WNBA first-team honors, averaging 20.2 points per game, and finishing 5th in MVP voting, she was firmly in her prime. With that kind of production, she easily could have explored free agency and seen what the rest of the league was willing to offer.
The Indiana Fever's 2025 season came to a close. Kelsey Mitchell stood in rarefied air, second all-time in franchise history in scoring, first in points per game, and first in threes made. Her 2025 season was her best yet, an all-star, first team All-WNBA, and 5th in the MVP voting. And Kelsey Mitchell is back.
But she didn't leave. Instead, Kelsey Mitchell re-signed on a one-year Supermax deal worth $1.4 million, making her the first player in Indiana Fever history to ever land a $1 million contract. And when she was asked about the decision, she didn't focus on the money at all. What stood out to her was the environment. She described the locker room as having a real family feel, saying, "The relationships I've built with ACC, and even Lexi and Sophie, and everyone else, it just felt like family." And in her own words, that connection was something she simply couldn't walk away from.
For the right reasons, I knew Fever was a priority. I knew that I wanted to kind of be a Fever girl again in a certain way. My relationships that I built with AB, CC, and even like Lexi and like Soph and all those guys, it was family vibes. So I couldn't I couldn't shake it and let it.
Clark made it clear that bringing Kelsey Mitchell back was priority number one for the franchise, and that alone tells you how important that backcourt connection is to Indiana's entire identity on offense. Mitchell's game is all pressured downhill. She attacks the rim, collapses defenses, and forces help to come early. That in turn opens up cleaner looks for Caitlin Clark on the perimeter, but it also works the other way around. When defenders are locked in on chasing Clark through screens and trying to take away her space, it gives Mitchell exactly what she wants: a straight line path to the basket. The reality is simple: neither of them is as effective on their own as they are together, and more importantly, both players fully understand that dynamic.
Yeah, the first $1 million player in Fever history.
As she should be, period.
So just your thoughts on her commitment to this franchise and getting rewarded in that way after being here for so long.
Yeah, I love Kelsey. I think just like you said, her dedication to this franchise has just been so crucial, and I mean, she's a big part as to why we even made it so far last year, especially with C being out. And so for her to get that money, I'm so.
Kelsey Mitchell finished the 2025 season leading the entire WNBA in total three-pointers made, knocking them down at nearly 40% from beyond the arc. That's the kind of shooting Indiana just committed to keeping in-house. On top of that, Aaliyah Boston just signed the largest contract in WNBA history, a 4-year deal that pushes her salary to $1 million this season alone and totals $6.3 million over the life of the contract. And she's only 24 years old. That's not a franchise paying for what she's already done. That's Indiana making a long-term bet on a player who still hasn't reached her full potential yet.
AB's just the rock. She's the one who keeps everybody, settled, keeps everybody calm, manages situation.
The moment she put on a Fever uniform, she has impacted this team.
The future of this Fever ball club really belongs to her, and she is going to take them to some special places.
When she catches the ball with her 2 feet in the paint like that, she is the most efficient player in the WNBA.
What makes Aaliyah Boston worth that kind of investment isn't about highlight plays or flashy moments. It's the quiet dominance, switching onto multiple positions, finishing through contact, securing anything thrown her way, and doing all the physical, unglamorous work that holds a team together when games tighten up in the fourth quarter. When the contract news broke, Caitlin Clark didn't hesitate. She summed it up in one line: nobody more deserving, and she's not wrong. With Boston anchoring the paint, Clark is free to play at full speed, pushing tempo, threading passes into tight windows, and taking risks in transition, knowing the interior defense is stable behind her.
I knew it was in the works, but I mean, I saw it on social media and just super happy for her. Largest salary in WNBA history over the course of the deal. So nobody more deserving, really happy for her, and happy that she gets to spend more time here because these fans really love her. This organization really loves her, and I've loved getting to play with her every single second. Like, she's not only a great basketball player, but one of my good friends. So really happy.
Boston's agent moved quickly as soon as the new CBA was finalized, and Aaliyah Boston didn't hesitate either. She chose not to prolong the process or test the open market. Instead, she made it clear she wanted to stay in Indiana, describing the organization as a fun environment with an incredible staff. On the surface, it sounds simple, but it says a lot. She prioritized stability and continuity over exploring outside offers because she genuinely wants to be part of what's being built there. In her own words, she reflected on the moment with gratitude and emotion, saying she felt blessed, giving credit to her faith, and expressing how excited she was to continue with the Fever. She talked about the staff, the culture, and the way the the team plays, calling Indiana a genuinely enjoyable place to be, and praising the level of basketball and the people within the franchise. Most importantly, she made it clear she loves being part of it. Around the league,
First and foremost, Mo's an elite communicator. She's an elite communicator on the defensive end of the floor. There shouldn't be mistakes in coverages because she's talking about it. She's a really good defender, active, aggressive. She's a hard rim runner. She's a hard roller out of ball screens. She's a terrific rebounder. She's a bright personality. You know, she brings a lot of energy. She's smiling. She enjoys being out there. She enjoys the game. I thought her and Caitlin had really good chemistry at USA as well. So looking forward to integrating.
Monique Billings brings exactly that kind of impact. Last season, she finished an incredible 81% of her shots from 0 to 3 feet, meaning when Caitlin Clark hits her on a roll out of a screen, those possessions are almost automatic points at the rim. She also fits perfectly into Stephanie White's vision for 2026, especially with how hard she runs the floor in transition, something the Fever want to lean on heavily. On top of that, Coach White has described her as an elite communicator on defense, which becomes crucial for a team aiming to climb into the top tier defensively. But the real advantage is how quickly she's already adjusted to the core group. Billings has shared the floor with Kelsey Mitchell in unrivaled action and played alongside Clark with Team USA, meaning she already understands their tendencies and knows where they like to deliver the ball before it even leaves their hands. Aaliyah Boston has also highlighted Billings' rebounding and ability to run the floor as seamless fits with Indiana's frontcourt identity. And that matters because most new additions struggle with the adjustment period when they first arrive, but Billings steps in without that learning curve. Last season, when games turned physical in the playoffs, Indiana got pushed around. It wasn't a theory. It showed up clearly in matchups like the one against the Aces, where they needed a stop and simply didn't have the edge or physical response to get it done. That's exactly the gap Myisha Hines-Allen is expected to help close.
Hines-Allen shaking her head like, it's hard to stop me when I turn that corner going to the basket.
Hines-Allen, yes! Hines-Allen count the bucket and the foul. To the second side for the sweet, smooth reversal. Myisha Hines-Allen coming right into your living room.
Here's Hines-Allen. Count the basket! So Myisha's got a mismatch, takes advantage of it, count it!
She's widely regarded as one of the most physically demanding players to deal with in the entire league. The type of frontcourt presence who doesn't just take contact, but leans into it and thrives in it. Opposing post players feel that intensity the moment they step on the floor with her. Stephanie White also pointed to her defensive communication as a major strength, noting that her voice on the court should help eliminate the breakdowns and coverage errors that hurt Indiana in key late game situations last season. That isn't just praise for effort or energy, it's White describing a player who anchors the defense from the inside out, someone who organizes traffic in the paint, calls out screens before they develop, and keeps all 5 players locked into the same defensive system and language.
Quite a bit of foul trouble in this half. To put it into perspective, Mabry has 3, Sanaya Rivers has 3 fouls, Bria Hartley has 3 fouls.
That's your wing depth.
Ugh.
What makes this move so valuable is the balance it creates for Indiana. Myisha Hines-Allen helps take the nightly physical load off Aaliyah Boston, especially against bruising post players who try to wear her down over 4 quarters. That means Boston isn't arriving in the 4th quarter of playoff games already drained when the Fever need her most. And for Caitlin Clark, the benefit is just as clear. Having a frontcourt partner who can cleanly catch passes in traffic and finish through contact turns those tight window assists and no-look passes into reliable points at the rim. It adds a layer of trust to every possession. The 2025 Fever had talent. The 2026 version has talent plus toughness. Players willing to match physicality instead of absorbing it. If you followed college basketball between 2022 and 2024, you already know the Iowa-South Carolina matchups weren't just games. They were emotional, intense, and loud in a way that went far beyond typical competition. So when Indiana selected Raven Johnson with the 10th overall pick, the internet immediately started writing a rivalry storyline before she even stepped on the floor. Then training camp began, and one clip set everything off. Johnson walking past Clark during a drill without returning a high five. Within hours, it was screenshotted, clipped, and blown into a supposed locker room issue by people who clearly weren't familiar with how teams actually operate. Aaliyah Boston, who already has a real connection with Johnson from their South Carolina days, addressed it on her podcast and shut it down quickly. She basically pointed out how fans often manufacture tension that doesn't exist between players who are just working. Both Clark and Johnson also spoke on it directly, making it clear that what happened in college stayed in college and moved on a lot faster than the online narratives did.
It was good. I learned from a lot of the vets here. I was listening. They were giving me, a good welcoming. They were telling me how training camp's gonna be. I thought it was very competitive, but it felt good to be here, honestly, and to play with these talented women. Sophie Cunningham, Caitlin Clark, Lacey Hall, Kelsey Mitchell, they all great people to be around. They help me when I don't know things. They know the system really well, so I asked them a lot of questions yesterday. I don't know, they probably got annoyed by me, but I did ask them a lot of questions.
What Raven Johnson actually adds is exactly what Stephanie White has been looking for. In her senior year, she averaged 1.5 steals per game while committing just 1.6 fouls, which tells you everything about her defensive discipline. She can pressure the ball aggressively without sending opponents to the free throw line, something Indiana noticeably lacked on the perimeter. That's the real value she brings: controlled aggression, point of attack defense, and smart disruption without the mistakes. Meanwhile, Justa Josite was selected 25th overall, and some people immediately labeled that pick as a developmental move or a long-term project. But that read on her game misses the bigger picture.
Justine Passat is huge. Like, if you've been looking at any of the drills, Justine Passat is huge.
People don't really appreciate how rare it is to find a 6'4" player who can shoot like that. That kind of combination just doesn't come around often. But what's actually catching attention in training camp isn't even the shooting. It's the defensive impact, and it's coming from a place most people didn't expect for a rookie. She's already using her length to bother shots, disrupt passing lanes, and get fingertips on balls and drills. She's recovering well after drives and contesting at the rim in ways you don't usually see from someone her age and size, especially since most players are still figuring out how to fully control their own body at that stage. Because of that, some analysts are already projecting her defensive ceiling in the range of players like Sophie Cunningham or Betnijah Laney, someone with solid foot speed for her frame and the ability to guard multiple positions effectively.
Like, I don't think people understand. 6'4" snipers don't grow on trees.
Now, Stephanie White is facing a real coaching decision. Does she carefully manage Juicy Josite's development with controlled minutes, or does she let her play earn its way into the rotation naturally, even if it means accelerating her learning curve? White came into training camp with one clear standard in mind: top 3. That's the defensive ranking she's aiming for in 2026, and she isn't framing it as an ambitious target. She's treating it like the expectation from day one. She even put it bluntly, saying, "We want to be a bear on the defensive end of the floor," a very direct message from a coach who previously led top 2 defenses in Connecticut in consecutive seasons before arriving in Indiana. The message is clear. This isn't about slow growth or gradual improvement anymore. It's about setting an immediate defensive identity and holding everyone to it.
Yeah, I think the message was just we've taken another step. We have to understand what it takes on a daily basis. We're going to continue to put the we over the me. We're going to continue to prioritize the locker room and the chemistry in the locker room and the continuity. And we have to expect more of ourselves on a daily basis. It's about consistency. It's about how we do the work, and it's about putting ourselves in position.
The 2025 Fever finished 7th in the league defensively with a 104.3 defensive rating, which makes a leap into the top 3 anything but a minor adjustment. It's a significant jump, and Stephanie White knows exactly what that standard looks like because she's built it before. In 2024, her Connecticut Sun teams posted a league-best 96.4 defensive rating, finishing number 1 in the entire WNBA. She isn't working off theory or guesswork when she talks about elite defense. She's already proven she can construct it at the highest level. New guard Tashai Harris, who also played under White in Connecticut, already understands the expectation. As she put it, defense wins championships. And once the playoffs start, that's what really matters. That mindset is already showing up in training camp. White has been emphasizing transition defense early and often, while working Billings and Maisha Hines-Allen into a coordinated defensive communication system alongside Raven Johnson and Harris in the backcourt. The goal is clear: build habits now that translate when the games matter most later.
Yeah, coach! Yeah!
Day one, exciting opportunity in front of us. Excited to keep going, y'all. Okay, let's have a good day.
Yeah, don't hesitate. Don't hesitate. Yeah, Raven. Yeah. Hell yeah. That's it. Hell yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah, go. Yes. Good. Yeah.
When Indiana turns up the tempo, it creates exactly the kind of chaotic, broken floor moments that Caitlin Clark thrives in. Her passing instincts are at their best when defenses are scrambling, and she can read and punish rotations before they fully form. The faster the Fever play, the more difficult they become to contain on both sides of the ball. That shift was already visible in early training camp footage. Clips started making their way online within days, and the response was almost identical everywhere. People had to watch them more than once just to confirm what they were seeing. It didn't look like guesswork or hype. It looked real enough that it forced a double take. The no-look passes are back, but not in a cautious, eased-into-it way you'd expect from someone just 8 months removed from injury. In one drill, Caitlin Clark zipped a one-handed dime to Myisha Hines-Allen, and Hines-Allen's reaction said it all. She looked genuinely caught off guard before finishing the play, which tells you how sudden and effortless the delivery was. Good. Then there's the shooting. Pull-ups, movement threes, contested looks, everything is falling. At one point during warm-ups, she knocked down 5 straight from the wing and corner, working off screens with a hand in her face, fully locked in and comfortable in her Kobe PE shoes. The range isn't just back, it's fully online. Stephanie White even made it clear she doesn't need Clark on the floor for every single rep in camp, and Clark herself addressed it before anyone could turn it into a storyline, saying, "Nobody get hung up on this. I don't want it to be about sitting stretches. That's not me protecting myself. That's me managing a long season on purpose." She also admitted that the 2025 injury was isolating and humbling, and it forced her to really understand how to take care of her body for the long run. So when she is on the court now, it's not a cautious 80%. It's full intensity 100%, just in shorter intentional bursts. And the footage reflects that clearly, but zooming out, Indiana still has real questions to answer. On paper, the roster looks loaded, but paper doesn't win playoff series. Clark looks fully healthy and operating at an MVP level. Aaliyah Boston just signed the largest contract in league history at just 24 years old. Kelsey Mitchell is coming off an all WNBA first team season, and the supporting cast is deeper and more physical than it's ever been. The question now isn't about talent, it's about execution. Can the front court hold up against elite post players in a playoff series? And can new additions like Monique Billings and Myisha Hines-Allen integrate fast enough over a 44-game grind? Those aren't minor details, they're the difference between potential and a real championship run. Caitlin Clark didn't hesitate when she addressed the expectation head on, telling reporters, "I think we're going to be the favorite to win it all." That could be read as pure confidence, or as a clear message about how this group is choosing to see itself heading into the season. Realistically, it might be a mix of both, because just a year ago in 2025, Indiana pushed the Las Vegas Aces to 5 games in the semifinals, but came up short, and the cost of that stretch showed up physically. Kelsey Mitchell was so drained after Game 5 that she developed rhabdomyolysis afterward. That's what happens when a playoff run is carried by a shallow rotation in the most demanding moments of the year. Now, the 2026 roster is built to prevent that from happening again. Myisha Hines-Allen brings the ability to absorb physical contact and hold up inside, while Monique Billings adds speed, rebounding, and transition energy. The idea is simple. Kelsey Mitchell doesn't have to log 38 heavy minutes every night when everything is on the line. This isn't necessarily the most stacked roster in the league on paper, but it might be one of the most most balanced and complete. And in the playoffs, that kind of structure often matters more than star power alone. The early training camp footage is already reflecting that shift. This isn't just theory on a roster sheet anymore. It's showing up in how they play, how they rotate, and how they compete in practice. Clark doubled down on that belief during her NBC interview, again stating, "I think we're going to be the favorite to win it all." And after 2 weeks of camp clips and on-court chemistry, that statement doesn't feel as bold as it did at first. Minutes are being managed, roles are becoming clear, and Clark is back after 8 months away, healthy, focused, and hungry. Around the league, people are starting to notice what that combination could mean. What do you think was the most important move Indiana made this offseason? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to stay updated on everything happening with this team leading into October, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.